Hello, wonderful people of the internet. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Call of Cthulhu by H.P Lovecraft. Now, before I begin, I just want to say that yes, I have got a different background behind me, and that is because I'm in the down the stairs study. My brother is currently going to bed, which means that I'm not allowed to film it in my bedroom upstairs where I usually do, so I'm stuck down here. It's not ideal, but I hope you can still enjoy the video. There might be a bit of noise, you can probably hear the washing machine in the background, but despite that, I hope you can enjoy. Okay, so the Call of Cthulhu is one of H.P Lovecraft's most famous stories, and this isn't the entire book, this is his complete works, so all of the stuff he's written is in here, including the Call of Cthulhu. So what the Call of Cthulhu is it's about this guy, and I don't think he was given a name in the story, so I'm going to refer to him as main character. So main character's great uncle has died, and he was a professor in ancient inscriptions and architecture, all that sort of thing. And the main character is looking through all of his belongings and finds a box, and he quickly unlocks it. And inside he finds an idol, like a rock sculpture of this grotesque beast on a mantle, and the mantle has inscriptions in it, unlike any hieroglyph or form of writing that he's ever seen. Along with this hideous idol is a whole load of files, documents, and sort of like a thesis, a manuscript written by the great uncle. And I can't go into much of it without giving you spoilers, but this book's sort of got culty stuff in it, ancient god stuff in it. That's what this sculpture is. It's the personification, this figure of a giant squid-headed dragon-winged god called Cthulhu, and that's why it's called the Call of Cthulhu. And I will talk about this a lot more in the spoiler section, so if you don't intend to read the Call of Cthulhu, then by all means watch the spoiler section. If not, I'll try and give all my thoughts spoiler-free and then move on to that. Okay, so what did I like about this story? Well, the format, the way this book was told was quite unique. It was told through the main character's perspective, but it was very much the documents and manuscript that he found in this box. So it's this guy discovering the discoveries of his great uncle. And that's really interesting because you're spoon-fed loads of information in an order that slowly makes you realise the grand scope of what's going on here, and it is massive, the scope here. Okay, what I also liked, without getting into too many spoilers, was the combination of cosmic horror, which is like gods and space, that sort of thing, and human horror. So a large part of this horror does come from gods and space, but another part of it comes from the cults that I spoke about earlier. There's a lot of talking about the cults in the middle of the book, and a lot of creepy stuff happens or is spoken about related to them. And so there are two different sources of fear here, and I thought that was really good, because if you're not particularly scared by one, chances are you're scared by the other. So that was good. Another one was the vague descriptions. Now, H.P. Lovecraft's sort of trademark is cosmic horror, and it means that there are things in his stories that humans can't understand or perceive, with their limited understanding of things, which means that with all this godly galaxy-spanning stuff going on, you can't really describe it because you can't comprehend it. So the descriptions are very vague and just pick on some very minor details, but enough to give you this big, horrible image in your head. And I thought that was really good, how he achieved that without telling you exactly what the thing looked like. Now, what didn't I like about this book? Now, as I said, this is a main character reading through documents, and the last third of the story is him going from place to place collecting information. What I would have liked was a bit more of an active story. I love the concept, and I had no problem with the way it was told. It's just to suit my personal preferences. I would have liked it if, rather than it being recounted, I would have liked to have been the character's shoes actually doing what was being recounted. I think that would make it a lot scarier. And this book is scary. It's going to stick with me and sort of keep me up at night for quite a while as I think about it. But it could have achieved so much more, I think, with active descriptions and activity. Another thing was, I believe this book, H.P. Lovecraft, was alive in 1890 to 1937, which means that his language, his writing style was outdated. And as I said in my last video, it had a bit of classic syndrome, where I felt that the momentum of the story was let down by the way that H.P. Lovecraft wrote. But those are such minor criticisms based wholly on preference that they can't really weigh the story down. Now I'm going to get into the spoiler section, so I'm going to set chapters on this video. If you click on the screen, there should be a bar along the bottom with the name of this chapter. You just click on that, click on star rating and conclusion after the spoiler section, and you can continue from there. Okay, so going into more detail about the story. This is about the main character who goes through his uncle's stuff and finds out about this great god Cthulhu, who is slumbering in the underwater city of Ray, I think that's how you say it, and will eventually rise again and bring chaos to the world when the stars align in the correct way. And this is like the big revelation at the end of the book, the grand plan that these cults and these hints have been leading towards, because this god is a cult who are servants to him and will help him rise again when the stars align. But I really like that as a story concept. It's very unusual. It's a different sort of thing, because the monster is not present. The horror is in the threat of the monster, I feel, in this. And that's great. Like, I'm not going to sit up at night thinking about this giant monster chasing me. I'm going to fall to sleep thinking, what if this did happen? What if this thing rose from the ocean, if it really is there, and caused chaos in the world? That is a really startling thought. And I love that. It's such a unique feeling and type of horror. And the monster itself, Cthulhu, is amazing. He's got an octopus head, sort of like Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean, with a long scaly body, with big claws and dragon wings. And so he's a very imposing sort of image as well. I'm sure I'll have an image up here in the video. And he actually does rise from the ocean at the end of the story. And there is a bit of an action sequence between not the main character, but a character in the file that the main character is reading. So that certainly gave a bit of action, which I enjoyed. A similar thing happened in the middle of the story with a recount of an encounter with the police and the cults. So you definitely got those action sections, but they weren't from the main character, so I felt separated from him. But when those action scenes did happen, I really enjoyed them, and they definitely got my heart racing. And this book achieved a lot in its small 43 pages. So that is the spoiler section. Okay, welcome back those who skipped. So now I'm going to be giving my star rating and sort of overall thoughts of this book. So, on Goodreads, which is my book rating site, I gave this book 4 stars. And even though you can't give half stars on that website, I feel like that is a fair enough rating. I don't need to put a decimal on the end of that. I liked it a lot. I really liked it. It's not my favourite book, but there are a lot of... This was a unique reading experience for me, The Call of Cthulhu. It's the second H.P. Lovecraft story that I've read, and definitely miles better than the first one, called The Alchemist, which I don't recommend you read unless you want to read all this stuff, because it's not that great. But this story had a unique type of horror that I really enjoyed, and had very few faults about it. The only umbrages that I had, the only bugbears, come wholly from personal preference, so I can't really bring down the quality of this book because of that. A quick thing I will mention though, is that since this book is from such a far gone time period, or at least, a century or two, it means that there is some racism and racist terms in this story, so if you're offended by that sort of language, I wouldn't recommend that to you, because the cults that I spoke about consist of, sort of black people, which is a racist concept in itself. It's like the cults are the black people are the bad guys, and that's wrong. The mixed race black people, they're the bad guys, and that is fundamentally wrong as an idea. And yes, that piece of this book is racist and outdated. So if you're offended by that sort of thing, or it makes you uncomfortable, don't read it. I tried to ignore it as I went through, because I knew that's not right, but I wanted to enjoy the story. And while that would definitely tint my perception of H.P. Lovecraft as a person, I still really enjoyed the story and recommend it to people who, one, are interested in trying cosmic horror, two, will not be offended by the racist language, and three, are just looking for a quick Halloween read. On YouTube, I found a video of a guy doing an audiobook for it, and it was really good, and it's got a montage of pictures of Cthulhu coming across it, if you're watching the video as well. So I'll leave a little link for that up here. No, this side. I always point up here, but that's my right, not yours. So I'll stick it up here so you can click on that if you're interested in listening to this. Okay, so that's me. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one, y'all. Bye.